Hello everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. And if I don't make another video between now and Christmas, Merry Christmas to everybody. I see I have over 200 subscribers now. Just want to say thanks to everybody for hanging out and hoping y'all are learning something, saving some money. Well, the other day we got about 18 inches of snow here, so I drug this old beast out, MTD snowthrower. This was given to me with a bad carburetor. I took it apart, cleaned the carburetor, got it running, went to use it on the snow and didn't have a whole lot of luck with it. It ran good after I first got done with it. Then I think a year or two later, which I always drain the gas. If you have a Tecumseh engine, always drain the gas. The design of the carburetor, they're designed to smudge up. So always drain the gas out of your Tecumseh. Now if it's a Briggs, just start it about once a month. It'll be alright. But anyways, so I was having to run it with the choke on a little bit, which tells me it was running lean. You know, last time I had used it before the snow, just a little bit of choke. This last time I had to choke it almost all the way, and of course it had no power at that point. And it wasn't blowing snow very well. So I went on eBay. You can buy these cheap Chinese carburetors for these things way cheaper than you can buy the parts to fix one. $10.99 shipped to the door. And I'm not good with carburetors, so it's an ideal solution for me. So, I'll show you why it wasn't throwing snow very well. Inside this blade here, you have this bolt right here. These bolts are designed to shear. Of course, if you lose this bolt, this is just freewheeling and it's not going to pick up snow and throw it very well. So I went to Tractor Supply, got me 2 new bolts. The other one was bent, it was ready to break. So that should get that fixed. And yeah, I know it's supposed to have special bolts, but this is Redneckville. We don't do things right around here. So anyways, let's start on pulling this carburetor. Should be a relatively simple job. Got to pull this shroud here, which has a bolt back here, 2 screws here. Pull your key out, pull your choke knob off. Yours won't be that easy. I already had these loose. And you've got a screw up here by the muffler. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this housing will come off. I'll pull that and I will be right back. Now, I have my housing loose. You will have a wire that is connected from the housing to right there on that screw. That's the kill wire for this key switch. You will have to disconnect that to finish removing your housing. 1 Phillips screw later. Probably can't see it. It's a rainy, crappy day and the lighting's bad, but take my word for it. That's a Phillips screw. Here's my wire. Now, this is a bit persnickety to get out of here. You got to kind of wrestle it over that choke, and it comes straight out the top. There's your housing free. On this snow thrower, you don't have to pull this, but you could if you wanted to. Be simple. There's a cotter pin here. I believe it. Screw here, and you can take this whole assembly off here, but I didn't because I don't have to. Now you have your carburetor hanging out here in the open, ready to be removed. So, let's go on the other side, cut off the gas, so we don't have a bunch of gas all over us. And we will get on that. Hopefully I don't make anyone seasick. People like to complain. Okay, so gas cut off. And oh, my lighting is horrible over here. But you can kind of see what I'm doing. simple. Cut the gas off. You probably know how to do that. Not that there's much in it. I think it's just about out. But I would prefer it stay in the tank than get all over me. Okay, now on to start pulling the carburetor. It's held on by 2 bolts, 2 screws. There's one here. There's one back here. Yeah, you can almost see it there. 2 screws. You've got this little line right here, which is a vacuum line, which I'm glad to see is in good shape, because I thought that might be part of my problem. But there ain't nothing wrong with that. You've got a linkage up here to disconnect. And before you take this linkage loose, be sure to mark the hole so you know what hole it goes in when you put it back. And the fuel line, you can't really see it back there, but it comes in off the back. I'll give you a better view of that once I get these screws loose and the carburetor off. I'll be right back. Just thought I'd give you a quick tip on this back screw. This back screw is kind of hard to get to. And I've seen other people pull the entire intake off. But if you can save a little bit of effort, why not save a little bit of effort? So these screws are tight, but you can barely get this big. I barely got this big screwdriver in here to break it loose, which I've already broke it loose. And once you get it broken loose, you can take your finger through here. There's a nut on the back, and hold the nut, pull the screw right out, and not have to take this intake off like I've seen other people do. So that'll save you a minute or two. Okay, I'm back. Now, I have both screws out, both bolts. They're bolts and nuts, as you can see. Phillips screw, nut on the end. They're out. And I have marked my piece here. See the Sharpie mark? Now, if you're going to soak this carburetor, don't use Sharpie. Use something to scratch it. I'm going to replace this carburetor, because I am assuming a piece of schmutz has got somewhere in it that isn't the obvious places. For $10, it's easier just to replace it. Anyways, so this is loose, and it should be loose. Just the gasket holding it. And the gasket ripped, but I have a new one with the new carburetor. And back here, you can see the fuel line, which is held on with a clamp. So you'll need a pair of needle nose pliers to get that clamp. And once you get that clamp and the fuel line off, your carburetor is free. Of course, that rod, which you can see my mark now. Like I said, don't use Sharpie if you're attempting to clean it and save it. Okay, now the old carburetor's off. The fuel line was a pain, because this mounts up here like this. You can see where the fuel line goes back there. The fuel line was stuck pretty good, but I got it off. Okay, so the next step will be to clean this gasket surface here, which you can see the old gasket stuck and ripped. I ripped it when I pulled it apart. Don't forget that rod for your throttle when you put it back together. So yeah, we'll clean this up and we'll get the new carburetor out. There we go, that was easy. The gasket did come off in almost one piece. Cool. Yep, that's clean enough for a new gasket, so we'll go get the other one and open it. Okay, now I have the new carburetor out of the box. Brand new carburetor, $10.99, shipped to the door. Of course, this is Chinesey. I've used these before. They seem to work pretty well for the most part. And for somebody who sucks with carburetors, it's a lot easier than cleaning one of these old beasts. I mean, yeah, it looks quite a bit different at this point. But this bracket has got to come. Just 2 little screws. Little bolt on here. Then this choke lever assembly will have to come off, which again is 2 screws. And it will bolt on here. And here's my brand new gasket. This one doesn't have any adjustments. This is your high jet adjustment on this carburetor. And yes, I tried it. It's not coming out. This one has, the only adjustment on this new carburetor is idle speed. Some people will complain about that. I'm not good with carburetors, so I think it's a good thing. Anyway, so we'll swap these parts over and get ready to put it back on the unit. Okay, now my choke assembly is installed. Just as I said, a screw right there, one right there. Come right off. New one went right on the new one. Come right off the old one. Now this bracket. Notice the way it goes. There's a little cutout that faces down towards the float valve. Two little screws. That'll go on the new one next. Okay, now got my bracket back on. 2 1/4-inch bolts. Easy. So we'll get it back up here, and I'll get this little lever right here back into the hole. Then I will hook up my fuel line, which even though it was stuck, it's still in good shape and pliable, so no reason to change that. And I've read this vacuum line is an issue on some of these, but not this one. This one's in good shape. So we'll get it up there, get that linkage hooked up, the fuel line, and maybe the vacuum line, then we'll mount it. Okay, now my fuel line is back on right here. Almost see my finger back in there. Don't forget the clamp. That metal ring right there is a clamp. I've got it facing down in case it ever has to come off again. Thankfully, it went together way easier than it come apart. That old fuel line was stuck pretty good. Only adjustment on this new carburetor is this right here, and this is your idle speed. Of course, it'll have to be together and running before I can set that. So, next on the agenda be to get this new gasket out and slide it in here. Get my screws and nuts, put them back in. I'll need 2 hands to do that, so we'll get that done and come right back. Easiest way to line this gasket up is one of them jobs where you could really use about 4 hands. Is put your screws through, hang your gaskets on your screws, then line your carburetor up and shove your screws the rest of the way through. Easiest way to line it up. This is one of them jobs that could drive you nuts, but that's the easy way to do it. Okay, my bolts and nuts are back in, as you can see. First one, the one back here. The one back here was kind of a pain to start. You can see my finger moving. It's right there. So what I did was got it back there and held it up against, and took the screwdriver with my other hand and turned it and moved the nut till it engaged. Just like that. So that saved me taking all this apart. I don't have this gasket either, so if I ruined the gasket, I'd be stuck. So that's why I did it this way. Anyways, this is back together. This thing should be ready to start. See how the idle speed is. So we'll come back. Okay, I've put about half a gallon of gas on it. Turned my gas valve back on. Choke's on, throttle's all the way up. The moment of truth, I have not tried to start this yet. We're doing this together. Should have got the extension cord out. This thing's got an electric start. You hook an extension cord up, hit the button, but I'm lazy. So, let's see what we get. There we go, like a champ. See the snow? I just moved that bit by the road there. Idle speed ain't bad. I can live with that. I'll call that a win. Now, put the blower housing back together and she's done. Okay, now we're back together after a test run. The blower housing is put back on, just the same way it was taken off. 2 screws here, screw up here by the muffler, this screw here that holds the dipstick, and this piece. And of course my little kill wire is connected back down here as I took it off. Don't forget your little safety key. Shove it back in. Choke control. There you go. $10.99 Chinese eBay carburetor did the job. Running pretty good. As you can see, it's blowing snow again. There was a big old pile of plywood piled up there. You can see where I blew it all over the place. Most of our snow's gone. It's been rainy and warmer. But anyways, that's how you replace a carburetor on an MTD snow thrower with a Tecumseh engine. Pretty simple project, pretty cheap, save yourself a bunch of money. I'd hate to see what a shop would charge you to clean that old bastard. Anyways, thanks for watching. More to come later.